Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are painting cherry blossoms for day 24 of our 30 days of watercolor flowers. They're so pretty and really simple to paint, so let's get started. I'm starting with a really light wash of pink so that we can add more color later, and I'm just going around in a circle creating these wavy petal shapes. Make sure to keep white space in the middle so that we can add our center to the flower later. And then just around the center while the flower is still wet, we're going to add a really strong pigment of pink to all of these flowers that we create. Cherry blossoms are on a tree, right? And so they're formed along a branch. So I'm keeping in mind a branch that's going upward, and it has some blossoms that are straight on. We can see the whole flower. And then there's some blossoms that are hidden, and so I'm kind of going back and forth between making really obvious blossoms, doing some that are hidden. I'm going to do some small little bud type blossoms as well, but just make sure that before your flower dries that you're adding that dark pink so that it can bleed in. This really gives it that cherry blossom look. And the way to make sure that your pigment is light enough is to just add more water. So you can see when I added that first petal, it was maybe a little too pink. I just added water and continued around with a more watery pigment, kind of made everything blend out. And up here, I'm creating those little buds I was telling you about. I'm also painting another flower over here, just kind of getting a feel for the composition where it needs more weight. It needed a little bit more weight on this left side, and now it needs a balancing weight over here on the right. And so just playing with your composition till everything feels right. Don't forget that pink again before everything dries. And then we are going to move on to adding the branch to connect all of these blossoms together. So now for the branch, I am picking up a nice dark brown color, and really to make branches or sticks, wood in general, look more organic, you need to vary the thickness of your lines. You need to have some lines going wobbly a little bit, some lines need to be going in a different direction, having little kinks and bumps, not connecting them all the way. All of that will make it look more like wood and not like a stem. So stems are more predictable, smooth, and not as rough and changing. And so having that change up in your branches will really make it look like that's a branch on a tree. And something interesting I learned about cherry blossoms is that they form first before leaves. And that's why sometimes you can get a whole tree full of cherry blossoms with no leaves. So that's what I created today, but if you want to look up a reference picture, the leaves are really bright light green, and when they start to form, they have these really cool bud shapes, and then they have small little green leaves that hug around the blossoms. So now we're going to paint the centers of the cherry blossom, and I would say that the center is really important because it gives the cherry blossom its signature look. So those little dots at the end of the stamen are called anther, right? And they're all going to be going in one direction depending on where your flower is pointing. And so I like to kind of imagine, okay, this flower is pointed to the left. So all the stamen with the little anther dots at the top are going to be more focused on the left side. So I like to create the anther, the dots first, and then really, really thin with the very tip of my brush, create light strokes down for the rest of the stamen. And you can paint more anther than you paint stamen, because then it gives the illusion that, there is a lot of stamen. There are a lot of the lines coming down into the flower, but you don't have to paint them all because it can get overwhelming and make the middle of the cherry blossom look too busy. Now that everything has dried, I'm going back through and adding a little bit more texture and added detail to some of the petals. I don't want them to look really flat, but I do want them to maintain their very light pink color. So I'm just using a bunch of water to kind of feather these little details out, but I just think it's a nice way to add some dimension within the cherry blossom itself. And now that we have practiced our cherry blossoms, I am adding them to my watercolor flower guide. And I really like the mix-up with this one because for most of them we've painted leaves and had some type of greenery, and so this one's the first one without green. Thank you so much for being here today while we painted cherry blossoms for day 24 of our 30 days of watercolor flowers. I loved this tutorial. I hope you did too, and I will see you tomorrow for day 25. Bye.